Good evening, everybody joining in. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder at Seed Global Education. We're really pleased to hold this session here today, as many of you are joining in from KNUST. The idea today is we've got a group of expert panelists who will talk to you about different opportunities about studying engineering programs, engineering, sciences, and arts programs in the US. We've got a great host of schools. We'll wait for a minute or two for a lot of you that are joining in. There's over 150 of you here already, so excited to speak to you all. And thank you for taking the time and being here. We'll give it a minute while everybody's joining in, and then we'll start with some introductions. Like I said, today's session is to help you make informed choices for your postgraduate education. So feel free at times when you have questions. We have the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen where you'll be able to ask questions as well. I'll talk about the format in just a minute. We'll wait for some folks to continue to join in. Nearly 200 of you in the room already. Really excited to speak to you all. And thank you again for taking the time and joining us today. We've got 6 lovely schools and folks joining us here today to speak to you. We'll come to their introductions in just a minute or two. But thank you once again, everybody that's joining in. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Mechanical Engineering Students Association of KNUST, led by Ms. Sandra Saki, who's been a wonderful colleague to help put this event together. Thank you for all your help throughout today. Right, we're just over 200 of us here. We'll get cracking in just a minute. But if, like I said, throughout this session, there are going to be several opportunities for you to ask questions. If any of the presenters ask you to mention or respond to anything, you can use the chat functionality at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions for our panelists today, please use the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. These will all be open once we start the presentations as well. In the second half of the event, we'll make sure that all questions are answered. In terms of the format for today, what will happen is each of the schools that are here will briefly introduce themselves and the universities that they're representing, talking about various opportunities that you have available to study at their esteemed schools. Following that, we'll run a panel where I'll ask them some questions that I've seen students over the last 15 years ask when they think about graduate education. And then you will have some time to ask questions to the group as well. If I can get a quick thumbs up on the chat, if everyone's clear with the format for today. Lovely. Some comments coming in. Wonderful. So without much ado, we will get the ball rolling. Before I start off, I'll do a quick introduction to the 6 schools who are here with us today, and also thank them for taking their time and being here with us. So first up, we've got Mark Kahn, who is the Director of Admissions and Marketing at Boston University. Next, we've got Gabriela Ganon, who's the Associate Dean for Graduate Admissions at Columbia University's Engineering, the Fu Foundation at Columbia. Then we've got Jake Reckford from Drexel University. He's the Associate Director for International Admissions and Recruitment. We've got Catherine Huggins, who's the Associate Director for Graduate Admissions at the George Washington University School of Engineering. We've got Carrie Bowling, who's the Senior Assistant Director for Graduate Recruitment and Marketing at NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. And last but not least, we've got Daniel Richer, who's the Executive Director for Enrollment at WPI as well. So with that, I can see a lot of you have already put a thumbs up, showcasing that you're able to hear as well and good with the format as well. So without further ado, we'll start off with the first presentation. If I can hand over to Mark to take us through opportunities offered at Boston Universities.
Okay, Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. My name is Mark Kahn, and I am the Director of Master's Marketing and Enrollment at Boston University's Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I am not in the shiny building that you see there. That's the home of our computing and data science. I'm in the tiny one right next to it, so I'm a little envious. Boston University is a highly ranked institution. There are many different colleges that fall under the umbrella. There are 17 different schools that fall under the BU umbrella. The Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, however, is the largest of our graduate programs, and we offer programs in 40 different master's programs as well as 30 different PhD programs. These range from computer science, artificial intelligence, economics, psychology, history of art and architecture. We do have an amazing engineering program as well. I am not employed by the School of Engineering. However, I do tell them that I will talk about their programs. One of the things that's unique to the engineering program is adding a practicum experience as well. So students can actually pursue engineering within these different concentrations, but also with practice added to their degree, which makes them a lot more employable here in the US. A little bit about who we are as an institution. There are 40 different core facilities throughout BU. BU is quite a large institution. In terms of some of the facilities that are available to students at the graduate level, these include our EPIC Center, our Engineering Product Innovation Center, our robotics lab. There also is a lot of research that's happening at Boston University. There are about $650 million devoted to research at the institution. So there's a lot going on. And there's a lot of interdisciplinary opportunities as well. So if research is going to be your thing, you can certainly pursue those at BU. We're also sized pretty nicely. We're about 36,000 students overall, and half of those are graduate students. So it's a wonderful place to be a student. Boston's a fantastic town. I'm sure others will concur. I'm looking at NYU. I'm a New Yorker at heart, though. So wonderful to meet you all. Cannot wait to answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Um, we're switching screens and we'll be back up in a second. Next up, we will go to Gabrielle Guinon, who's the Associate Dean at Columbia University. Gabrielle, if you would like to take up the presentation next.
Yep, just gonna share my screen here. Great. Thank you all for joining us. I'm happy to talk to you about Columbia Engineering. There we go. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, Columbia was founded in 1754. We are the 5th oldest institution in the United States and the oldest in New York. In 1864, the School of Mines was founded and would later become the Fu Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. We have a very long history. It's pretty long and boring, so I'm not going to drone on about it, but what I like to talk about is how our history impacts and shapes what we do today, and the research that occurs on campus and the opportunities that await you. On the bottom right here, you'll see our departments. We have about 10 different departments and disciplines, and in each of these we have master's and PhD programs. We have master's and PhD programs in all of these departments, with the exception of computer engineering and data science. Those programs we only have a master's program in, but everything else we have master's and doctoral studies. Columbia, as you probably know, is located in New York City. We think that there's a lot of opportunities for students here to pursue not any one industry. You don't have to just stay in technology, for example. We have healthcare, we have finance, we have the entertainment industry. You'll see our application deadlines here on the bottom right. You should always check our website, stay up to date with what we have going on, because these are subject to change. I'm going to talk to you just briefly about 2 programs that I think really set us apart. This is professional development and leadership here. We call it PDL. This starts in the summer before a student ever enrolls in a program. They start working with the professional development team. The professional development team starts working with students and really training them on everything that you'll need to be successful outside the classroom. Networking skills, your resume, your interview. You take 10 different elective courses through them that are kind of boot camp courses in nature, 2 hours at a time maybe, but it's really what prepares our students to be successful outside of the classroom. In addition, we have our graduate career placement coaches. Every single program has their own graduate career placement officer. These people specialize in their areas of study, and their job is to get their students a job. So you'll see, we have career placement coaches for business analytics. If you're a business analytics student, you have one career placement coach whose job is to find you a job. I think that this really helps our students be successful once they graduate and once they leave our campus. So I won't go on much longer. I look forward to answering your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby, for the presentation. I hope for many of you that are joining in, we're now over 250 of us here. You've got a good sense of what BU and Columbia have as opportunities for you to offer as well. We'll hear from other schools as well as we go on in the next few minutes. But I just want to take a moment to remind you that if you have questions about any of these schools, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. We are going to have a time when I'm going to ask them some questions that most students thinking about studying in the US ask as they make their choices. But if you have something, please feel free to put them into the Q&A section as well. Right, next up, we're going to go to Jake Redford from Drexel University.
Great. Thank you, Paras, and thank you, everyone at SEED and KNUST for this opportunity. It's really wonderful to be able to chat with you all again. So I represent Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're a comprehensive R1 research institution located in the heart of the city. Our founder, his name was Anthony J. Drexel, hence the name Drexel. He is a legendary financier here on the East Coast of the US. He was a founding member of a company called JP Morgan, along with JP Morgan himself. And this is a quote that we like to share with our prospects to help them understand what our ethos as a university is. It says, I know the world is going to change, and therefore the university must change with it. So that is reflected in our mission, in that we are constantly updating curriculum, constantly updating our classes and our offerings to students with an eye towards innovation to enable our students to become career-ready graduates. So why come to Drexel? We are a research institution located in a large city. We have over 120 different master's and PhD programs in 12 different colleges. I'll list those in a moment. We are a leader in practical and community-based education. Experiential education is an essential element to all of our classes. So you'll be getting real-world experience from your first moments on campus. We are ranked number 2 overall in the US for cooperative education opportunities, or co-op. What co-op is a chance for students to leave campus and work full-time for an employer for 3 to 6 months. You won't be paying tuition and you won't be attending class. You'll just be working full-time, getting some great work experience and enhancing your skills. Students in computing and informatics, engineering, and business are eligible to participate in the co-op. We do have some pretty impressive rankings, a top 100 ranking in US News, a top 60 ranking for private schools from the Wall Street Journal. Overall, just over 24,000 students. 1/3 of those are graduate students, and just about 2,000 international students total. With an eye towards our innovation, we have achieved 54 new inventions and 26 new patents in the last year. This is a list of all of our colleges. Of particular interest to you may be the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Business, College of Computing and Informatics, the College of Engineering. We would certainly welcome your application for any program. Some are more competitive than others, but typically, the good news is that most KNUST students do get into many of our business, computing, and engineering courses. And I'll wrap up just by talking a little bit about the context of where we're located in Philadelphia. We are located centrally in Philly, right across the street from University of Pennsylvania. The neighborhood itself is called University City. It's a great place for you to be living, studying, working alongside almost 60,000 other students. There's lots of opportunities for shared housing, finding work opportunities, and to really create a strong community with domestic and international students alike. So I certainly hope you join us in Philadelphia, and I look forward to discussing further. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jake, for that. Definitely learned a lot more about Drexel today. Next up, we're going to go to Catherine from George Washington University School of Engineering.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Paras. So as Paras introduced me at the beginning, my name is Catherine Huggins. I work at the George Washington University, specifically in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. So GW is located in Washington, D.C., which is the capital of the United States. We're centrally located. We're about 5 blocks away from the White House, the World Bank, the National Mall. I'm sitting right on campus right now as I speak to you guys today. It is very hot in DC, but I'm sure that would be very comfortable for some of you. I've been to Kumasi and to KNUST before with seeds, so it's possible that I've spoken to some of you in the past, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to talk to you again. Something that I find unique about GW is that we are predominantly a graduate institution, so we have about 10,000 students studying at the undergraduate level, but we have about 15,000 students studying at the master's and PhD. At the School of Engineering specifically, though, we have about 1,200 students studying at the master's and PhD level. We are a tier 1 research school within the larger university and are intentionally small to provide students with a boutique experience so that they can receive the technical expertise needed to then go on and also have the opportunity for interdisciplinary research and opportunities both in and outside of the classroom in the greater Washington, D.C. area. We have 6 academic departments, 80 tenured and tenure track faculty members, and offer a number of different MS and PhD programs that you can see listed on the slide in front of you. If it specifies master's only, that's the only thing we offer. The one thing I'll bring your attention to is data analytics is unique in that we only offer that in a fall start, while all of our other programs are allowed to enter students in both the fall and spring semesters. You can see here our Science and Engineering Hall, which, as I mentioned, I'm sitting in right now. It's our main hub for all of our students and all of our faculty. They have their offices here. Our classrooms are here. We share this building with our Columbian College of Arts and Sciences and our School of Medicine and Public Health to have that interdisciplinary research opportunities where our students are working with programs and experts in all of our different areas of expertise across campus. The one thing I want to bring your attention to is we do offer scholarships to our students who are qualified. At the master's level, we have merit scholarships that range from 25 to 75%. Doctoral students are going to be funded typically fully by their departments, depending on the GRA or the specific grant funding that the faculty is offering. There is no separate application to be considered for any of this funding. If you submit an application, we will consider you for these opportunities. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is that we have committed deeply to research into trustworthy AI, which is an intersection of law, public policy, international affairs, and applied science, to take a hard look at how AI is impacting our society right now, which is very relevant. I'm sure you all can agree. And I would also want to bring your attention to the fact that 23% of our doctoral awards are awarded to Black and African American students, which is much higher than the national average of 4%. Last, I just want to bring your attention to our application deadlines. For fall, that deadline will be January 15th, and for spring, that is September 1st. Those deadlines never change, so it's really easy to remember no matter when you're ready to apply. But with that, I'm going to leave you guys. If you have any questions, happy to answer it during the Q&A, or you can send us an email at engineering@gw.edu.
Thank you, Kat, for that. We've got 2 more presentations, and then we see a lot of questions that you guys have posted already in the chat. I want to take a minute to quickly also talk about scholarships, because I know that's an area of interest to many of you. The SEED Scholarships Program offers over $2.7 million for candidates applying to several institutions across North America and Europe. Have a look at that. My colleague will put a link in the chat as well. That might offer you some resources as well. And many of the schools that are here are part of the program too. Without further ado, we'll go to Carrie Baldwin for talking about NYU's Tandon School of Engineering.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Bowling. Like Faraz said, I am working at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. So this is the engineering wing of NYU, located right here in the heart of New York City. So let's get started. I'll tell you a little bit about the institution. We are located, like I said, right in the heart of New York City. Our campus is actually located in Brooklyn. And we offer 35 different graduate degree programs across 11 different academic departments. So we do have a slew of options for you to choose from that are all STEM designated programs. You can see on the slide just a snapshot of the types of departments that we have that offer both master's and PhD programs. This is not a full extensive list. We have, as I said, 35 different programs. But if there's something here that piques your interest, be sure to check out our website to see the full list of all of our programs. We have recently been investing a lot of funding into our institutions and our research. And because of that, we have really jumped in the rankings over the last 10 years. We've jumped 30 spots, which is more than any other engineering school within that 10-year period. So it really shows you that we're investing in our students, investing in our future, and being able to provide our students with the materials that they need to have access to cutting edge research facilities and really be the innovators that we want our students to be. Some things I do want to highlight, we have amazing resources for our students already as we continue to invest in our students. And one of those things is our career services. We do have multiple things that they do for students, including career preparation for interviews, resumes, that sort of thing, pretty standard stuff, but also provide a summer career academy where students can learn more about those opportunities. So that way you can do that virtually before you even come on campus. You're set, you're good to go. You know how to use those things and be able to get internships secured within your first year of study. I also just want to quickly highlight and bring to your attention there are our scholarship opportunities. So you're automatically considered for scholarship at NYU if you are admitted into a program. So you do not need to submit any additional scholarship application outside of your general application for admission. They are merit-based scholarships, so that's based on your academic merit, so your grades and or your GRE scores if that's something that's required. And they typically range somewhere between $3,000 and $12,000 a year. In order to be eligible for those scholarships, you need to have at least a 3.0 out of the 4.0 scale, which is the US education system scale. Standard application requirements, so I'm not going to go into those too deeply, but I just want to point out one thing that makes NYU a little bit different, which is that we are not requesting that you send us an essay on your own with your own sort of prompts. We do have prompts within our application that you will need to reply to. So making sure that you pay attention to that when in our application and not just uploading an essay that you've already created. And then finally, our deadlines there, they stay the same year to year. Our application for next year will open in just a couple of months. So it will be at the end of September. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie, for that. We've got one more presentation and several questions are coming in. We're going to try and take as many of those over the next 30 minutes to an hour. Last but by no means least, if I can go to Daniel Richer to talk about WPI next.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Danny Richer. I am very proud to be working for WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. We are located in the city of Worcester, Massachusetts. We're about 1 hour from my friend Mark in Boston University and about 3.5 hours or so from New York City, located in that northeast corridor of the United States. On this slide here, we have our kind of motto, our tagline, putting theory into practice. And what that means to me is that your academic experience, your knowledge that you gain is not knowledge in and of itself. The whole point of being a research institution, a research university that offers bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs is to create knowledge and also to find solutions to the problems that exist in our world. That's what we do. We take the theory and then we use it to create knowledge and answer questions and solve problems. It's very, very exciting. On this slide, you see some pictures of our campus. My favorite picture is on that bottom row. You'll see my dear friend, Dr. Jagan Srinivasan. He's a neurologist and one of our faculty members working with the student in our lab, which leads me to our next slide, which is our core values. You see that we value as an institution respect for each other and for our facilities and campus, community. We are a small institution of about 5,000 undergraduates and about 2,500, maybe 2,600 graduate students. We have all chosen to become a part of this wonderful university, and we value each other as one community. Inclusion, we have students and faculty enrolling and on campus from 6 continents. It's a wonderfully diverse institution. And for our international students, I think that's one of the primary reasons why they choose WPI. Yes, very strong academics, wonderful research opportunity, but it is a very welcoming and inclusive community. And of course, innovation and achievement go hand in hand. You'll see that I have listed here WPI strategic plan. It's a very exciting time. We have just inaugurated a new president, Dr. Grace Wang, who comes from us from the Ohio State University. She has developed a strategic plan that's going to guide us to some very, very exciting places. In our graduate school, our graduate and professional studies, we offer over 50 different academic programs at the master's as well as the PhD level. Some of the larger ones in terms of number of students are going to be things like robotics, electrical and computer engineering, mechanical engineering, data science. We also do have a new graduate degree in artificial intelligence. And this year alone, we have launched 6 new degree programs. So again, our strategic plan is very, very exciting, and it's a wonderful time to be on campus. What makes WPI different? Well, there's a couple of different things that I think I can point to. One of them is the fact that we have 4 unique schools, and I believe that every one of these schools has degree programs that are STEM certified. This is going to be very important for international students that are looking for OPT options. I think that's a point of distinction and differentiation. I also like to point to the very holistic application and admission process. Again, because of our size, slightly smaller, we really try our best to get to know you as an applicant so we can help learn what is going to be the best fit for you and your academic journey. Innovation, achievement, and outcomes. We are so proud of the great legacy and history that we have going back to 1865, and you can see some of the achievements and innovations that WPI is responsible for. From the innovation of the Segway, the father of modern rocketry, Robert H. Goddard. We have Goddard Hall on campus. He was the one who created liquid-fueled rockets. We also have the designer of the Hubble Space Station, the Hubble Space Telescope. We do wonderful things on campus, and I'm very much looking forward to having this conversation with you today to help you learn about WPI. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Danny, for that. And thank you, everybody, for the great introductions about your institutions and opportunities that candidates have available for them as they think about specialized master's programs today in the US. We've got about 30 questions already come in, and some of them are sort of common to what we're thinking as well. So I'll start off with one of the most common things that candidates think about when they're starting to choose a school. Mark, and I'll come to you first. When deciding between a plethora of schools and opportunities in front of them, what are some of the key factors that candidates should keep in mind as they choose the right institution and program for themselves?
This question could take the whole hour and a half, so I'll try to keep it brief. I think location, I think access to opportunities. What is it that you're after? How is the city that you're located in going to help you, or the rural area that you're going to be in going to help you? What's the focus going to be? What are the networks you can tap into? Who are you going to meet in your cohort? Who are you going to be interacting with? Where are the students from? What have they studied? I could go on and on and on. That's just the social part. We didn't even touch on the faculty, the strength of what they study, the labs that you may have access to, the academic components. And then there's the growth part. How do you want to grow as a human being? which city will help you do that and facilitate that growth as well, because it's not just about being in the classroom or experiencing neighborhoods, but it's also being a different person than you started your program in. I studied philosophy, it kind of shows, but I'll leave you with that.
That was very helpful, Mark. And I think, for every individual, there's going to be the right fit and right program. Research plays a big part in terms of spending time understanding what's right for you. So I think, there are some questions coming in about how do I choose the program. I think, my one tip to those individuals in particular would be study about different opportunities that you have available, especially from the schools that are here, but otherwise as well. Um, Gabby, I'll bring you the next question, and I think this is sort of a great segue for that. While searching the right institutions, rankings become a great part of that sort of discovery. What according to you is the role of rankings in finding the right school or program?
Thank you for that question. Rankings, Columbia has an interesting history with rankings. So, I always say take them as with a grain of salt. I think that they are a great way to find out about schools. I think it's a great way to list build, but I don't think that you should live and die by rankings, because it should matter what's important to you. Rankings, might not know the methodology behind rankings and why a school has earned a certain ranking. That methodology, that reason might not matter to you. What matters to you as a student? Is it what research is taking place? Is it the curriculum? Is it the location? Is it the job opportunities? Think about what you care about, and that will be different for everybody. For the students who are pursuing a doctoral degree, it doesn't matter if a school is the #1 school in the universe if you don't get to do the research that you want to do. If you're a master's student, it doesn't matter, again, the ranking, if you're not going to get a job in the field that you want to get a job in, if you need a job. Most students do need a job, right? So you need to think about what matters to you. Don't worry about what matters to somebody else or what someone else tells you to care about. You know what you care about and plan accordingly.
That's good advice. And I think that sort of sums up how every individual's journey may be very personal, where rankings can be a good start point possibly to discover things, but definitely not where you want to finish your search for sure. Jake, I'll come to you with the next question, and there's William and a couple of others who've asked this already. What are the various steps? And we'll talk, over the next 10, 15 minutes, maybe we'll focus on the application process here. What are the various steps that candidates have to go through when thinking about applying to one of the schools in the US? And maybe just briefly touch on the steps, and then we'll ask questions to all of you about different aspects of the application as well.
Yeah, good question. I think the first step you should be taking is really reflecting on yourself and what your goals are, and really be thinking about the skills that you want to be taking forward into your career. And as Mark said, what kind of network do you think will enable you to fulfill your journey to the goal that you have in mind? And once you start with that goal in mind, then you can start to evaluate certain programs to see if they're a good fit for you. And I would recommend to think of this as a long-term process just before you even get on a plane to come to the U.S. Because it's going to take time to select the programs you're interested in. It's going to take time to get application materials together, like transcripts, arrange for recommendations, to write personalized statements of purpose for each school. So we usually recommend to start your search over 1 year before you start before you intend to start studying, because every school has different deadlines, different start dates, and things like that. So really be aware of where you are currently, where you want to go, and give yourself enough time to get everything in place for your journey to be successful.
It's a great point, Jake. Thank you for that. And one of the things that the many of you that I hear had written to us, and which is why we put this session together, that you're probably about 6 months, a year, or 18 months out. So this is a great starting point for your research as well. So attend events like these that help you discover more about what might be the right fit for you. Jake touched on a couple of things, and I'll start off with one of those. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question here. Thinking about the application process, one of the first steps that candidates have to look at is, either a statement of purpose or the application form itself. What are some of the common mistakes that you've seen that you would want to advise against when candidates are thinking about this?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So if you're applying to multiple institutions, I think that this is where students start to make the most mistakes, because a lot of our application processes are quite similar. You're going to be asked for similar documentation, and it does take quite a bit of effort to focus on each of those documents. And so, first of all, that's a mistake students make sometimes, is thinking, oh, I'll just upload whatever thing I have, my old resume from when I applied to a job before, or, I can quickly type up this essay. What I would say is that number one, make sure that you're taking the time to focus on each and every aspect of the application. Within that, making sure that you're looking at each institution's requirements, as there may be various differences that are just slight, making sure that you are preparing each application for that particular institution. Their programs might be slightly different. There might be different research that you could do that you're still interested in both, making sure that you talk about those things within your application. And then the big things that students make a mistake on, I see, is a lot of times within that statement of purpose, which, as I mentioned before, Tandon specifically doesn't have quote unquote a statement of purpose anymore. You get a prompt where you write an essay and reply to that. So again, that's a nuance, a difference to make sure that you're paying attention to. But when students write those statement of purposes, making sure that you are articulating it to that institution. We've seen many a statement of purpose that have come in with a different university's name in them, like, oh, I'm so excited to attend Boston University. And when a faculty member who's going through hundreds, if not thousands of applications sees that, it feels to them that you are being careless, and it does not reflect well on your application. So make sure that you're being detailed and specific with each individual application.
That's very well put, Carrie. And that's probably one of the most common mistakes that we've heard of when candidates, while they're putting a lot of effort, sometimes those small points of attention to detail make a big difference. The schools know that you're applying to multiple schools, but please take the effort to ensure that you're personalizing your effort towards each application as well. Kat, I'll bring you the next question, and there are two things. One question I want to pick up from the Q&A that the candidates are putting in, which is somewhat to a response of when I asked Gabby about the rankings. Do rankings, and while the answer may be slightly obvious, I do want to make sure that we address this because it's come up a few times. Do rankings play a role in the opportunity of visas that the candidate gets when they get the enrollment at any institution?
Great. That is a great question for a student to ask if they're concerned about. And what I would say is that no, the ranking does not have anything to do with the visa process. Obviously, none of us in this call are a visa officer at an embassy, but we've certainly spoken with people through EdUSA at different embassies all across the world. And that's not the kind of information that the visa officers are looking at. They are looking to see that you are prepared to pursue your studies. They're making sure that you are aware of where you're going and that you're able to articulate what you're interested in studying. They're not there to go, this school doesn't have the best ranking, so you don't get to go. They're there to go, what do you specifically want to do? How are you going to support yourself? Why did you make this choice? That's the kind of information they're going to be looking at in those visa interviews.
Thank you, Kat. And I'll give you the follow-on question, which I originally had for you as well. There are some folks that are asking about if they've studied in one faculty during their undergraduate program and they're looking to switch between faculties when they think about a specialized master's. Is that common? What would your advice be to them as they look at that pivot?
Yeah, of course. So it is really common for students to change their area of study between their bachelor's and their master's studies. We see that all the time. I did that. I got my bachelor's in English literature, and then I studied international ed at my master's degree. That's totally fine. What we are going to be looking at is, again, that statement of purpose, looking to see that you've been really thoughtful about why you're making this change, that you are, again, able to articulate what it is about this new area of study that has you excited and what specifically you want to pursue. The other thing that we would say is, of course, we are not trying to hide any information from you. If you look at any of our websites or any other institution you're looking to apply to, we will be very open about if there are specific prerequisites, if there are courses that we need you to have before you're eligible to apply for a program. So that's something to take the time, make sure that you're paying attention to the specific schools you're applying to. For example, for GW, most of our programs don't, or at the School of Engineering, most of our programs don't have a specific bachelor's degree requirement for any of our master's programs, but some of our programs do have course requisites. For example, computer science, we like to see that you have some data software, other things in there. We like to see that you have some mathematics and hard sciences. Those are things to pay attention to. But totally normal to make a change of study. Don't worry about that. That's not going to stop you from being admitted. Just be thoughtful and mindful and purposeful.
Okay. Thank you, Kat. While there's more than 50 questions, I'm going to try and summarize some of them to try and cover as many as we can. Danny, I'll come to you with the next one here. In terms of, when the school is evaluating the application, switching sides here for a quick minute, what are the important things to you that you look for in an application?
That's a wonderful question, and I'm joined today by my colleague Hillary Lyons, who may also have some feedback and perspective on this question. Our admission process is absolutely very holistic, and we do take into account a number of different factors. I would say academic preparation and academic background is probably the most important thing, even if it involves a academic change. So, for example, as my friend Catherine mentioned, somebody who has, for example, my academic background as an undergraduate in political science would not be, even with pretty good grades, be a good candidate for something like aerospace engineering because I don't have that appropriate foundation. I would say academics are very, very important, no question. And for us, that means primarily your undergraduate transcript. But I would also say the personal responses and the more qualitative measures, like letters of recommendation, like your statement of purpose. Why is it that you have chosen this master's degree discipline? What kind of research have you done? What kind of experiences do you have that have contributed to this this desire to go to graduate school, and why you think you're a good fit for that program and for WPI, I think are crucially important.
Thank you, Danny. Hillary, would you like to add anything to that?
I think Danny nailed it on the head. I would just say in general, a lot of times you as a student want to advocate for who you are as a student, as a professional, and it depends on how you do that best. So is it your writing? Is it your background, your educational background? Is it your network? Is it the folks that you've chosen to advocate for you? You really just have to think about showing up as your best self, because that's what we're interested in. We're not necessarily interested in how you compare to the other applicants. We want to know how WPI or any institution in the US is going to help you advance in your career, and also how you're going to help the institution make the world a better place.
Thank you, Hillary. Mark, I'll come to you with the next question. And Danny touched on this briefly about the role of academics, or the importance of academics. How big a role do they play? And I'm taking a group of questions that are coming in here as well about, a CGPA that's not as high sometimes. Does that influence the outcome of the decision from the school, or what can somebody do to improve their chances if they have a low GPA as well?
I think, at the base level, the higher your GPA, theoretically, the more likely you are to get admission into especially competitive programs. But GPAs are 1 point and it's one data point, whereas your transcript holds multitudes of data points, including your trajectory. What is the path that your grades have been going on? Have you improved to your current GPA? Which means that you started out very weak, but you improved as the classwork got harder. So that actually tells me a lot more than just a GPA. And the opposite holds true too. If a student started very strong, but then ended up very, very weak, I may question whether or not graduate work at a level that's even harder is going to push them beyond where their grades are currently. So there is a lot of information, but there's also the idea that if you are an expert in one particular field and that's the field you're looking to pursue, some programs may ignore some of the unflattering grades in subjects that were not related. So it all depends on the admissions committee, but at the end of the day, it's never just hinging on a number. We care a lot more about the substance of a transcript and what your story is. And if there are explanations, this is where the personal statement, to Danny's credit, comes into play. You can also explain what happened. We won't know. But if you leave it up to us, we're going to be very creative and come up with some wonderful ideas of what went awry. So it's up to the student to make sure that they're using every avenue to explain bad things and to help add to our ability to advocate on their behalf in the rest of their application.
Thank you, Mark, for that. And that really sums up the idea of holistic review that schools look at when they look at that whole process as well. Gabby, I'll bring you the next question, and I'll give you two parts. One quick question that's coming in from Frank, who says, do I have to be in my final year to start an application or of my undergraduate program to start an application? And maybe I'll broaden that a bit as well. When is the best time to apply?
Deferrals, but I tend to recommend that you should apply for the term that you plan to enroll. So I do not recommend that a student apply if they're not ready to begin their studies. So if you are ready to enroll for, it'd be, let's say, September 2025, so fall 2025, most applications are going to be opening up in the next few months, and we'll have deadlines over the next few months, really between December and February, March. By and large, every school is going to differ. But if you are ready to start in September of next year, 2025, then you should start thinking about that. But in general, I recommend apply and prepare to begin when you really are ready and not in advance of that.
Thank you. And I'll give you the follow-on question here as well. And talking a little bit more about the academic aspect that we spoke about just a minute ago, a few questions have come in about if they have a low GPA or CGPA, sorry, is there a way that the GRE could help them position their academic interests better?
Sure. I think that every piece of the application can help balance out areas that might have been more of a struggle. I will say that by and large, the transcript is going to probably be the most important part of your application. And it's not just because we want to see good grades, right? It's because we want to see proven ability to succeed in a classroom setting. You are applying for a classroom setting. You're applying for an academic program, right? You're not applying for a job. You're applying to an academic program, and we want to know that you're going to succeed in that program. And if you have struggled in the past, and especially if you have struggled in similar coursework, so if you have struggled in computer science and you're applying to a computer science master's degree, we need to see evidence that you will succeed in that program. And so if your transcript is telling us that you may struggle in that program, you need to show us in other ways how it is that you will succeed. We don't want students to arrive here and not do well. We don't want students to spend the money, the investment, fly over to the United States, enroll in a program, and not be able to complete the program. That's not great for you. It's not great for anybody. So when we look at a transcript, it's to see that proven ability to succeed. And if the transcript doesn't tell us that, you need to tell us that some other way.
Thank you for that, Gabby. And I think, that for people that are unsure of, some of you might be in your final year, some of you are in your pre-final year. This is a great time to start this search and plan how your academics need to look when you think about going to graduate school as well. So thank you for those questions that a few of you have asked about this. Hopefully that answer gives you an understanding of where you need to prepare as well. Jake, I'll come to you with the next question here. One of the things that candidates are quite conscious about, especially given the environment today, there are some questions about safety and the politics of being able to study in the US at today's time. Do you have any tips for people coming in, especially from Ghana, of how they could, make the most advantage of coming to the US? And if you want to touch ever so briefly on anything that you'd like to comment on the safety and politics side as well.
Certainly. So for the universities represented here, with maybe the exception of WPI, we're all located in large international cities. And the cities we're located in are just like any city that you may have, encountered in Ghana or anywhere else you've been in your life. It's I wouldn't say any particular area is unsafe, but you need to be operating, with the same kind of, uh, you know, personal security measures that you would be taking at home, right? So not walking around the street with, a big brick of cash or something, or, not making yourself a target for any kind of burglary or crime. You all made it through university, so you're clearly responsible people. I think, you would probably have a good idea of how to be safe in the US and in a city context. I would also just in regards to, the thinking about the politics of the U.S. and where we are as a nation, the U.S. remains open to hosting international students and ensuring that they're successful in our country. Certainly, the most burdensome part of your time as a student will be going through the visa process. That's a high stakes process, but once you're here, you'll be under the umbrella of the university that you're attending, and they will make sure that you're safe, that you're supported, and that you are on your way to completing a degree. Certainly, there's lots of news happening right now regarding our elections and here in the U.S. and maybe some of the how we're interacting on the global stage. That will not have an effect on what it's like for you to be a student on campus. When you're a student in the US, you're there to study, to focus on yourself and your career, and will enable you to find success in that.
Thank you for that, Jake. Kat, I'll come to you with the next question, and thank you, Jake, firstly for emphasizing on all those points as well. Kat, one of the things that in a time when there are going to be lots of candidates from Ghana, especially from KNUST, applying to top schools, the competition's fierce. How does the candidate stand out in that process when applying to top schools?
Yeah, of course. So this is going to reiterate a little bit of what we've already talked about, but one of my favorite things to share that Mark once said is you can only control what you can control, right? You can't go back in time. You can't redo your first year classes. At this point in time, you can't really change what your major was or anything like that. But those other application materials that we've been talking about, that statement of purpose, your resume CV, your letters of recommendation, those are the areas that you're really going to be able to create a narrative for yourself and to really highlight the skills and the information that you feel make you a unique standout applicant that our faculty and our admissions crew should be aware of. So making sure that you are taking advantage of each different aspect of your application to provide new information. Don't simply use your statement of purpose or your resume to regurgitate information that's already on your transcript. We already know your CGPA. We already know what classes you did very well in. We already know your major. Use that statement of purpose to talk about research projects you've been working on, internships or work that you've been doing in your own spare time that you found passion in. Use that resume to tell us about volunteer activities that we wouldn't otherwise know about. Those letters of recommendation, you should be finding faculty or employers who can really speak to why you're such a standout applicant and what is it about you that's going to make you succeed in our graduate program. Like Mark mentioned, if you've been improving, if there's a story about your struggle, that can always help. A faculty member who you got 100 in their class and all you did, you came in, you did the test, you got an A, you did the project, you got an A, and you never spoke to your faculty member, that's not going to be a great letter of recommendation compared to a class where maybe you came in a little behind. You didn't do very well at the start. You had to go to office hours. You had to do extra work. You raised that grade by the end of the semester. That faculty member is going to tell a better and more compelling story and make a better case for your ability to advocate for yourself, for your ability to overcome hardship or challenges. Those are going to be the ways that you can really make yourself stand out in the application pool. So taking advantage of every opportunity to tell us something new about yourself and why you're going to be a good fit is always going to help.
Thank you, Kat. And I think there were a few questions that hopefully get answered through this as well. The role of extracurriculars play a very important aspect as you talk about yourself and the idea of differentiating amongst the competition itself as well. So extracurricular, in line with all the things that Kat's mentioned, are quite important. So keep that in mind as you tell your story, which will become unique basis of what you tell the schools about as well. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question at this point. And maybe this will be the last piece before we move on to the next section of questions. Kat mentioned about research projects. Now, some candidates may have that, may not have that. There are some questions coming in about, does that play, how big a role does that play that they've had research projects or not at their undergraduate level?
So first and foremost, it may depend on the institution and the program that you're applying to. What I'll say is that within NYU, I usually tell students that that's always a good thing. It's never going to be a bad thing that you have additional research experience coming in. However, if you're applying to a master's degree program, that's not something that we require. If we required it, we would have it on our admissions requirements. So really that's a boost. So a lot of times I see students who they may have internship experience instead of research experience, and that is okay. What we want you to highlight is the things, as Kat was mentioning, that could make your application stand out that you may have, that you've done. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically research experience. Now, what I will say is a caveat to that is if you're applying as an undergraduate student directly to a PhD program that does allow you to do a direct application as an undergraduate, they are going to be looking for research experience prior to coming into that PhD, because your PhD is going to be heavily focused in research. This may apply to some master's programs that are not NYU. I don't know what our other colleagues here, how their master's programs and the research balance goes. So it's really important to reach out to the admissions office and articulate, what those types of questions are. They can help you with that. It's also important to look at what the curriculum is for your program and sort of understand what that is. Because, for example, our master's programs are very much based and focused in getting our students in the field when they graduate. So it's not necessarily focused on that research, but obviously our PhDs are. So again, it's not something that we're just looking for this one specific thing. And if you have that one thing, it's a guarantee that you're going to get in. We're looking at the context in which you're applying, what you're wanting to do, what the program is you're applying to, and then what you've done to sort of show us that you would be successful, and provide our institution and our program, a wealth of diversity and knowledge with that you can bring into the program from whatever experiences you've had as well.
Thank you, Carrie. There are some questions coming in about email addresses and contact details of the schools. We will try and share some of that with you after, so please don't worry and mention those here. We will share them with you following the presentation and the event today as well. Hilary, I'll bring you the next question, and Danny, you could chime in as well. Moving on to the next part of the application process, we've spoken about the essay, we've spoken about the academics. The letter of recommendations play an important role. There are some candidates who've asked about, is it important to have somebody from the industry to write that, where they've done some work experience? Is it important to have faculty? What is your advice, and is there any advantage of one or the other in any capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. So for WPI, most of our programs require 3 letters of recommendation. So there's a lot that you can do with 3 different individuals advocating for you. I think the best thing to do would be a mix of professional and academic. That would be ideal. However, if you are someone that just graduated your undergrad and you haven't worked in your field, or if you've done something maybe part-time and you don't think that your supervisor at that job would be the best person to give you a letter of recommendation, then that would be a situation where you would just want to do 3 of your professors. Alternatively, if you are someone who has been graduated for a while. Maybe you don't have a great or a direct connection to your undergrad faculty anymore, then 3 professional recommendations are fine. But again, a combination is probably the most ideal. At the end of the day, you want to pick people who have a direct relationship to you and that you would be proud of the words that they chose to use to describe you in that recommendation. Sometimes we'll notice that, maybe a professor for a really big survey type class, I'll say mechanical engineering 101, they might have had 500 different students. And if you had them 2 years ago, they might remember you really well and say positive things, but it might be more generic. Someone who is able to speak to projects you've done, your work ethic, your personality, your goals, your values is way better than somebody that maybe has a associate professor title or something like that. So yeah, at the end of the day, a combination would be the best, but really it's about the individual student and their relationships to who they're choosing. The most important thing is that you tell them about the urgency of this process and how much it is going to be a benefit for you and your goals, and give them a little bit of a sense of urgency when it comes to timing. So if you do have a specific deadline for your application, a lot of times we notice that one thing that we're missing to get you reviewed is maybe a letter of recommendation. So before you even put their information into an application portal, alert them. Make sure that they know that you're making this request so they can keep an eye out for that email, that alert from the system, and they're doing it as soon as possible. That's my biggest advice, I would say, the urgency.
Thank you, Hillary, on that. Danny, any quick comments?
Hillary, a wonderful response, very much applies to WPI. And I would say that this voice, or I should say these 3 voices, these 3 letters of recommendation, should really speak to your ability to be successful, your ability to do research, perhaps, your ability to be successful academically. It should speak to your career interests or your passions, your academic interests. That voice is very valuable in helping us determine who will be the most successful candidate on our campus.
Thank you, Danny. And in the interest of time, I'm going to try and swim through some of the questions on the chat as well, and request the panelists to try and answer in shorter briefs where we can as well. So Mark, I'll come to you with the next question here. Alongside letter of recommendations, there are several questions about the interview process. What are some of your tips for somebody to keep in mind as they prepare once they get to that stage of that process as well?
I would say don't over-prepare. We don't want to speak to a well-rehearsed robot. We want to speak to a human being. Be familiar with your resume, make sure it's up to date, make sure you're aware of the things you've done. But I don't want someone reading off their list of accomplishments to me. I want a conversation. So these can be very conversational. Some schools will ask that you reach out to schedule one. Others, it will be by invitation only. So make sure you're paying attention to your inboxes to make sure that you don't miss that invite.
Thank you, Mark. And I would just add on to say that, be it the letter of recommendations or be it the interview, the schools have given you this opportunity to showcase your best version. So put the right people and then prepare to talk just about things that are relevant to you. Like Mark said, they don't want to hear a well-prepared answer that you think is the right answer. They want to know your version of the reality of that. Gabby, I'll bring you the next question here. There's a lot of questions that are coming in around visas as well in particular, and maybe we'll elaborate a little bit about the CPT, OPT opportunities as well. Do you want to tell candidates what opportunities do they get while they come to the US to study from a visa angle as well?
Yeah, so when you get your visa, so first, of course, you have your visa interview, and it is very important in your visa interview that you talk about coming back to your home country. So I did see a question about that. So you are going to want to make sure that you talk about coming back to your home country, what you plan to do with your degree back home. So once you are in country, students are eligible for CPT, CPT is what you use while you're in school to either work or do an internship. Now, parameters around this will vary based on the program that you're enrolled in. At Columbia Engineering, you are not eligible for CPT until 1 year of academic study on campus. So that means that after you've done your fall semester and your spring semester, that first summer, you could do an internship. You could and get paid for that internship. So that means that you can work off campus, you can get paid real money and work a little bit full time over the summer as long as you're not enrolled in coursework. Now, once you graduate, you are eligible for OPT. OPT is what allows you to work in the United States. If you are in a STEM designated program, and all of our programs are, I'm sure most of my colleagues, their programs are as well, you are entitled to stay in the United States for 36 months working on that OPT STEM extension. You're still on your student visa, but you're working, making a US salary, and again, that's for 36 months. At the completion of that, you will need to return home, or at that time, your company may look to transition you to an H-1B visa or other options. But you do have a number of opportunities, and those are things that you should consider when you are looking at graduate programs as well. I think that answers it.
No, that's great. And I'll give you the next follow-on question to this as well, which comes from John. He's asking, what are the common reasons in your experience in recent times that you've heard of denials for visas come in Ghana and Nigeria in particular?
Great question. So we don't see a ton of visa denials at Columbia, and I'm sure you're probably the same for a lot of my colleagues, as long as students have really compelling reason to come back home. A big reason that students may not get a visa is that they don't think that you're going to come back home. If you're using the student visa opportunity as a backdoor to immigration, they want to know that you're coming to study, and then you're going to bring that degree and that experience and that knowledge back home with you. So if they don't see sufficient ties, if they think that maybe you have too many family members in the United States, or if you don't have significant community ties that will bring you back home, that's something that could derail a visa opportunity. There can be security concerns, especially with students who are maybe studying cybersecurity, for example. That's not really a problem that we've seen with the Africa region, but that could be a concern as well. So you just want to make sure that you have every possible question answered and ready and prepared for.
Thank you for that. Jake, I'll come to you. There's some questions about co-op programs and I think there are two schools here that I'm personally aware that do that as well. But Jake, do you want to just more generically talk about the opportunity of co-op programs and maybe anything in particular to Drexel as well?
Yeah, so co-op or an internship that's part of your degree study will be considered curricular practical training. That was mentioned before is called CPT. That is the opportunity for you to be working full-time in the US while still in your student visa, while still pursuing your degree. Doing a CPT program will not affect your ability to pursue OPT, optional practical training, at the end of your study. So you can do a co-op or internship while enrolled and then still continue on and maximize your ability to work in the US at post-study. The way the co-op process works at Drexel is that in your first term, you'll be enrolled in a not-for-credit class called Co-op 500. That class will give you all the information and resources on how to apply for one of those positions in the co-op program yourself. You are going to have to do all the work yourself. It's not a guarantee that you would get one of these paid positions. So it's a great opportunity because it gives you a chance to experiment in the job search process, but you will have to be applying for jobs, writing the resume and cover letter, interviewing, negotiating the salary, all on your own. There's no guarantee that any of these employers would hire you. The good news is there's about an 80% chance success rate, and you will have the assistance of our Career Services Center throughout your entire time in the program and as an alumni, so there will be support for you in that process. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah, no, thank you. Kat, I'll sort of roll that question further. Jake mentioned about career services and support that institutions offer Can you talk about some of the key things that universities like yourselves and many others have available in resources for candidates coming from Ghana in particular to help them secure jobs in the US?
Yeah, of course. So, as you mentioned, career services is going to be a big one at George Washington University. Specifically, we have a general career services office that helps any student who comes in. And then the School of Engineering also has its own W. Scott Amy Career Services Center. It is literally down the hall from my office right now. But these are going to be great opportunities and resources for students to utilize to get networking opportunities, to go to career fairs, to meet companies that come to campus to interview students. The biggest thing that might be different for students to consider is that in the United States, typically most institutions are not going to force you to interact with these offices, right? It really is going to be up to you to take the time out of your day, out of your studies, to reach out to those offices, to take advantage of those resources, to really get the most benefit out of your program and out of the career services office. You know, we have a whole team of career services experts who have relationships with STEM companies in the local DC area and around the US. We have data for where our students have gone post-graduation all over the world. We can connect you with alum. There are different opportunities, but nobody is going to lead you to the water and force you to drink. You are going to have to make that first step yourself. But what I'll say is it's very common for schools to have these career services opportunities out there for you. They will also typically work with students post-graduation for at least a little bit so that you do have that resource there for you. And it is strongly something that we encourage you to take advantage. You know, if you enroll in our school, that's part of your tuition dollars. You're paying for the career services office to exist, and you should be utilizing them when you can.
Great. Thank you, Kat, for that. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question, and I'm cognizant we've got just under 20 minutes and about 60 more questions that we need to run through. Hopefully, we can cover some of those which are quite common. Carrie, you know, funding is a big conversation that's coming up in the Q&A as well. And maybe what I'll do at this point is after Carrie, Hilary, if you want to answer that, and then we'll go back to the other four to quickly answer this as well. Talk to us about funding opportunities, you know, in general first, what are available to candidates when thinking about studying in the US? And then maybe if you want to, after that, specify any specific scholarships that NYU has for candidates coming from Africa as well.
Great, yes. So in general, it's always important to reach out to each institution, as I've said before, as there's differences within funding options. There's also differences in funding options between master's level programs and PhD level programs. A lot of PhD level programs may be fully funded or have some sort of funding option that includes teaching assistantships, research assistantships, stipends, things like that. That's important to look into that if you're looking at PhDs. On the flip side of that, on the master's side, for example, at NYU, most of our teaching and research assistantships are for our PhDs, so it's a little bit more rare for students to get that on the master's side. That may vary at other institutions. So one option that we offer our students as an alternative is an option to work on campus in something called a graduate assistantship, which is really an opportunity for you to have an hourly part-time job on campus. That's an additional way to look for funding. And of course, earlier I mentioned in my presentation that we review students for merit-based scholarships. So that's something to look for in all institutions that you're applying to. Is there any scholarships that are available? Are they based on merit? Are they based on need, which means your financial need, and figuring that out. If they are not providing scholarships at all, or the scholarships that they're providing is not adequate, looking outside of the institution for outside scholarships you may apply to. There may be scholarships specifically for students coming from Africa, coming from Ghana. There may be, if you're a woman in STEM, something like that, looking for those things. And then outside of that, also there is options to apply for student loans to fill those gaps for you for things that you may need for, you know, your general, you know, lifestyle in New York, making sure that you have enough money to live while you're studying as well as paying for your studies. And then outside of that, I do want to point out that NYU does have additional scholarships outside of the ones that I mentioned before. That's kind of our standard procedure. But for all students in Africa, in the winter, once you've applied this fall, you will receive an email if you are from any country in Africa, and you have mentioned that in your application. We will send you an email about an additional African scholarship that we offer our students. It's an opportunity for you to apply to it. So this is one that you would need to additionally apply to. There will be instructions about that. We basically ask you to fill out a small form and do a small essay, and then we review students for those scholarships. And we usually have 2 students that get a full scholarship for full tuition coverage, and then up to 4 additional students that can get partial scholarships that are usually about half of tuition. But it does vary year to year, but that information will be shared with you as we get closer to the winter. So keep your eye out for that. Again, this is something that is a limited available scholarship, and all students, so not just from Ghana, are applying to it. So keep that in mind, but it is an additional opportunity that you can keep your eye out for. And that's what I recommend, is making sure that you're checking all those opportunities out when you're looking for additional funding.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for the holistic response. Hilary, I'll come to you quickly and then run across the other 4 as well.
Sure. So I won't reiterate any point, but it's similar to what Carrie mentioned. The other thing I will mention, and it's similar to my answer for the recommendations, it's urgency. So for WPI, we will not assign you a scholarship or grant you a scholarship if you have not received formal admission into a program. So when you're thinking about securing scholarships or funding, especially internal scholarships or funding, really focus first on getting that a positive admission decision, because based on that, a lot of times those same criteria that allowed you to start in the program would also be why you'd receive a scholarship. And a lot of times you don't need to do anything additional. So it's all based on what you've already submitted for the application. So WPI is rolling admission, which means that we don't necessarily have deadlines, which gives you an opportunity to start your process of applying really, really soon. And at that point, once you've received that decision, then we'll be sending you a bunch of information about available scholarships, depending on the school that you're applying to, the program that you're applying to, and also the different initiatives that might pop up one year that don't pop up the next. It's a very dynamic process, and we're always thinking about new ways at WPI to help students attend.
Thank you, Hilary, for that. Mark, I'll quickly rush over
Yep.
to you.
We have scholarships. They range from 5,000 up to half tuition. You don't have to apply for them. There are some specialty scholarships listed on our website as well.
Thank you. Gabby?
So we have very limited funding for MS programs. We do fully fund our doctoral programs. So any student applying to a doctoral degree programs automatically considered, and if they're admitted, they will be provided with full funding. MS programs, we have limited opportunities, but students will be contacted if they are eligible to apply for the opportunities that we do have.
Okay, lovely. Jay?
At the master's level, students are automatically considered for all merit-based scholarships that they qualify for when they're offered admission. If you are eligible to receive a scholarship, you'll know that information in your admission letter. PhD programs are fully funded by the university, and students will also get additional funding for the work they do as assistants. Master's level students are eligible to apply for assistantship positions after they have been enrolled for a minimum of 1 term.
Okay, lovely. Kat, anything in GW?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my presentation, we offer merit scholarships for master's students that are tuition discounts from 25 to 50 to 75%. Obviously, the higher that amount goes, the fewer number of awards we are granting and the more competitive it gets. Like Hilary mentioned, getting your application in early is going to be the most helpful thing. So I mentioned that deadline of January 15th. If you miss that deadline, it's highly unlikely that you'll receive a scholarship offer. And then for doctoral candidates, as I mentioned, they're typically fully funded. that would come directly from the faculty and the department, depending on their grant.
Thank you. And I want to take a quick second to reiterate two opportunities that we're able to facilitate for many of the candidates that are here as well. One, you have access by attending this event. You've all become eligible to apply to the $2.7 million of scholarships that the Seed Scholarships Program offers. Second, if you are looking at education loans as an area of support as well, we've partnered with Empower. They are able to help you with your education loan process as you look at opportunities of studying at many of the schools that are here as well. So do reach out to our team as well, and we'll connect you to the right opportunities at the right time as well. Great. I'm going to run through a quick rapid fire with many of you here now. We've got about 10 minutes. I might ask you guys to give us another 5, if that's okay, just with a quick thumbs up if you're all okay to stay for an extra 5. Lovely. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Gabby might have to step away. Okay, lovely. So we'll try and take some questions here as fast as we can. I'm rolling through the questions, and my request is for candidates that are seeing questions similar to theirs already in the chat. Try and mark a thumbs up on those questions, so we'll take more of those coming up. Please don't repeat the same questions multiple times. I'll start with the first question that's coming about, somebody who wants to think about a master's to a PhD progression as one pathway. Are there opportunities for candidates that possibly, two parts of the question, and Gabby, I'll give you this one to start. Two parts of the question. First, if they don't have a master's degree, can they apply to a PhD? And second is that, can they get an opportunity where they start a master's program and directly continue onto a PhD as well?
Sure. So if a student does not have their master's already, but they want to do a doctoral program, they can apply for Columbia. There are master's to PhD program, and that is considered a doctoral program. You receive funding as a doctoral student. You will simply earn the master's en route to the PhD, but you will be considered a doctoral student throughout that whole program and be funded as such. Now, if you aren't confident that you want to do the doctoral program right away and you want to apply to the master's and then transition into a doctoral program, our students are welcome to apply to our doctoral programs from the master's program. You would need to apply, but of course, given that you'd be a student here, you'd be making relationships and connections with faculty that may help you accomplish that goal.
Okay, thank you. There are several questions coming in about application fee waivers. I'm pleased to share that majority of the schools that are here will be offering application fee waivers, and we will send communication out about them to all of you that are attending today. So please look out for that in your inbox over the next 48 hours. And if you have further questions, please do reach out to us. I'll bring the next question here. Mark, I'll come to you for the next question. There is Kwaku, who says if they have a 3.16 on 4 on their BSc in information technology, and they're thinking about applying to an MS in cybersecurity, one, that career path, how common is that? And two, what are the opportunities for someone? What kind of score on an undergraduate level makes it more likely to see scholarships as a potential opportunity?
So it's very difficult to quantify that because, again, holistic review process, like we've seen 4.0s that we've said no thanks to because everything in their application was weak. We've also seen students with lower grades who were very compelling. So I cannot quantify that. However, the better your grades, the better your chances typically. The better the testing. The program does require the GRE, so they will look at how students are doing, particularly in the quant section, and also what kind of match they are for the program. We do have students that apply from many different backgrounds. However, they will look for certain prerequisites. So check our websites for all the prerequisites, all the courses that we would typically like to see from our students, and that would determine whether or not you're a good fit for the program.
Brilliant. Thank you. Jake, you mentioned a bit about graduate assistantships. Can you talk very briefly about what a common process is at institutions of how a candidate can apply and when is the best time to apply?
Yeah, so I believe most institutions are bound by Department of Homeland Security regulations that students are only able to submit an application for on-campus employment after they have been in the country for one term. So you'll need to be, get your visa, get to campus, go through one term successfully as a student in good standing at your university, and then apply for the assistant position. So it's a good idea while you're in that first term to kind of talk to professors, start a good relationship with them, let them see that you're easy to work with, that you do good work. So then when it's time for them to make their hiring choices, they'll say, oh, I talked to that student from Ghana. I think, I want to see them every day and have them help me. So it'll make the choice easy for them.
Great.
And
I want to, yeah, sorry, Jake. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to emphasize one point as, because we're talking a lot about funding as well, think about graduate education as an investment into your future. There will be scholarships, there will be other aspects of loans or personal financing that you will make at it, but this is going to be a life-changing experience that gives you the chance to build a career in a geography that you possibly may want to live for the rest of your life sometimes. Definitely don't say that in your visa interview, but make sure that you have the ambition or aspiration to do something big, which is why you're considering this. Kat, I'll bring you the next question, which comes from Moses about letters of recommendations. His question is there a way a student can send their letter of recommendations to the school directly? Because most of our lecturers don't have ample of time to send it through the portal. Is there a hard copy way that can be used as well? I think this is a common challenge that comes up, so it'll be good to cover that.
Yeah, I would say that you would have to talk to the different application or admissions office of whichever school you're applying to. For GW, what I would say is that we prefer to get the letter of recommendation directly from the faculty member or employer, for the concern that we always want to make sure that the individual is being as honest and truthful as possible when they're recommending you. And sometimes there are people who might not feel comfortable doing that if they know the student is going to be reading that letter. This is typically why on the application, students do have to sign something waiving their right to review that letter. If there is, for whatever reason, a really specific reason why the faculty can't submit it, you can always reach out to us and we'll help. But again, submitting your application early will allow your faculty more time to submit that letter of recommendation. So typically, timing isn't always going to be the most pressing reason, but just follow up and ask the school directly for help.
Great. And I would just emphasize on Kat's response, if a faculty is not ready to take the time to write that for you, maybe that's not the right person to be your recommender. So spend time trying to find the right person who is invested in your future in some capacity in that case as well. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question. And actually, before I do that, there's a lot of you that have asked about specific backgrounds that you're coming from and what program might be best suited for you. Unfortunately, in the interest of time, we're not able to cover all of that individual cases today, but please reach out to each of the schools, and I'm more than certain they'll take time to advise you on what might be the best fit for you as well. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question here. While we're still talking, engineering and more technical programs, how important is the applicant's LinkedIn profile in the selection process? This question comes from Aram, who's asking this as well.
They're not going to be looking at your LinkedIn, as far as I know. So it's not something that they're going to be doing. I mean, you may put it in your resume at the top or something and have it linked with your contact information. Faculty may, on a rare occasion, look at that, but they most likely will not be. They don't have the time to go and look on a separate website for information that is frankly not curated information that is and also repeated information that we have asked for in the application. Because what we're looking for in the application when we ask for your resume is a curated version of your experiences. You may put all of your experiences on your LinkedIn, which is great for you to have as a resource, but what we need from you is what are the things that are pertaining to this program and can show that you're going to be successful. And you need to be putting those in the application for the faculty to review, because they will not be going and searching for, how many followers you have or how many posts you've done or, any research that you've highlighted on LinkedIn. If those things are that valuable to you, you need to be articulating them in a succinct way within your application and putting that forward to the faculty directly.
Good. Very well put. Hilary, I'll bring you the next question here. Waivers of GRE scores, in today's time are yourselves, and then maybe we'll do a quick hand raise for everybody else as well. Are there GRE waivers available for candidates applying to you?
Sure. So the actual question is the GRE even required for most of our programs? And the answer is no, which a lot of students get excited about. However, if you have scores that you're really proud of, absolutely submit them. Again, the holistic application process will look at them and consider them. However, for the few programs that the GRE is required, there is no way to waive it. The faculty have decided that it is a part of the application that's very, very important for them to make a decision on, and there is no amount of professional experience or GPA that will counteract that. You will have to submit those scores, but of our 50+ programs, only a handful still require that.
Great. And I'll just do a quick second to check with everybody. Mark, I'll start with you. GRE requirement, yes, no? Any quick thoughts for you?
The programs that require them will not waive them. Most of our programs do not require.
Great. Gabby?
We are GRE optional.
Lovely. Jake?
Most programs are GRE optional.
Okay. Kat?
The School of Engineering is GRE optional. For any programs outside of the School of Engineering at GW, you'd have to reach out to their offices.
Lovely. Carrie?
For tangent engineering, all of the master's programs are optional, and a majority of the PhD programs are. There are select programs that do require it. It will not be waived.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answers the question for some of you that have asked school-specific questions about the GRE as well. Gabby, I'll bring you the next question here. Christiana is asking, some of them use the CWA format instead of the CGPA format. What's from an academic score perspective on their undergraduate? What are ways to understand the conversion metrics better? Any advice on that?
It's a great question. So I really recommend that students, when you're entering your GPA, follow the directions on your application. Every school is going to ask for this information in different ways. We ask for it in its native form, and then we also ask for you to convert it. And when we ask for you to convert it, we give you tools to do that. So every school is going to have different requirements, different asks. Make sure you read the instructions, follow them very carefully. And if you need help, you could always reach out to an organization such as WES, World Educational Services. They do have free tools in addition to their paid services.
Looking at that point, I want to thank you. I know we've taken a couple of minutes extra from you as well to stay on. Thank you for being here today. And we, for everybody else, if we can stay on for a couple more minutes, I'll try and take a few more questions. We appreciate it, Gabby, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Last few questions, and I appreciate all of you. There's about 200 odd or 160 odd questions that have come through. So we're trying to skim through as many as we can. And like I said at the half point of the event, the schools will be more than happy to answer specific questions that you have about faculties that are of your interest. So don't worry if we've not covered them today. Please reach out to the schools. We'll come back to you with details about the recording for this event, as well as contact information for each of the schools as well, along with the application fee waiver process. Mark, I'll bring you a question here. There's Issa who's asking, what are things, and in some format we've sort of covered this as well. For most schools where the application is the same between the scholarship and the admissions process, is there anything more that a candidate can do than what they've done to be considered for scholarships?
Good question, and I understand the frustration with that because obviously there's a lot of passion behind wanting a scholarship. And I will say we've never met a student that we would offer money to that said no. So we assume that every student that's applying would like scholarships, which is why we consider everyone that's applying. But with that same nugget of info, make sure your application is as perfect as you can make it. I think students forget sometimes that small mistakes can bear bigger burdens in your application when everyone else doesn't have them. So I would say double read your application essay, triple check everything before you click the submit button. The amount of effort and thought you put into your application is going to reflect, and it's also going to impact the amount of scholarship potentially that a department will offer, because all of our scholarship decisions are made within committee, and then they make a recommendation to my office. I chair the scholarship committee and we look at everything that they say. So if there are important things, make sure they're pointed out in your application. One of the things that hurts, and I know we're short on time, is when a student sends me a private email that fills me in on everything. And I'm like, this would have been wonderful to be in your application. This is a mistake that we cannot correct because the application's already been reviewed. We can have an appeals process and look into that as well, but it's never the same as making the perfect impact with your application the first time. So I would say put that effort in. And with that, I do have to bid you farewell, running behind on my other meeting. Bye all.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for being here as well. Great. Okay, I think we've covered majority of the questions that have come in today. And for folks that have specific questions for individual schools or even have follow-on questions, I'm sure all of the schools will be more than happy to engage with you. I want to take a quick moment to thank everybody. We've gone over the requested time. We appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for taking time and giving advice. I'll probably close out with giving all of you just one chance to give any, if you were to leave this room with one tip to the candidate, what would that be? And Jake, I'll start with you and we'll go across, or maybe Kat, I'll start with you and then we'll go across to everybody.
Okay, my tip is going to be the same tip I always give everybody, which is to take advantage of Education USA, which is a great resource for students across the world. They have offices in Kumasi that you can go to. They are there to help and support students such as yourself who are going through the journey of exploring studying abroad in the US for graduate degrees. And so they can help you prepare for your visa application. They can help you to work on your application, help you to know about schools that maybe you aren't aware of yet. So please look for them, reach out. They're a wonderful resource.
Wonderful. Thank you. Jake?
The schools here today are just a small slice of elite, high-ranked institutions in a very specific corner of the U.S. The U.S. itself is enormous. There's almost 4,000 universities in our country, most of them granting master's and PhD program degrees. So, there is a good fit out there for you, and there are a lot of resources out there for you to help find a program that's going to give you the skills you need, the network that is going to enable you to grow, and maybe in a location that is going to make you very happy to spend 2 or more years. So use the internet, use course search sites, use Education USA, and always feel free to contact people at universities. They're always willing to help.
Wonderful. Carrie?
Yeah, I just always tell students, especially when you're early in the process, make sure that you're thinking about what your end goal is. I think students get hung up on finding the perfect institution, but thinking about what job or career do you want to end up in, or what research do you want to do at the end of this, whatever that is, and then start working backwards from there. Because once you have the end goal in mind, as you start doing your research of these different institutions, what types of classes are provided in the program, what types of resources they have, all of that can come back to what your end goal is. So then that way you're making sure that you're doing the best fit for you, because that's very important at a graduate degree program.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie, for that. Hillary?
Yeah, I would say just be proud of yourself that you've even gotten to the point in the process where you've considered pursuing graduate school. And because of that, because it's such a big undertaking and it's so important, make sure that you're putting your best foot forward at every interaction and showing up as your best self.
Wonderful. Danny?
Enjoy this process. This is phenomenal. Carrie had a great point. Several years from now, you will have earned a master's degree or a PhD. Think about what your goals are. What do you love? What makes you happy? What kind of environment do you want to be in? And if you enjoy this process now, you will end up at the school that is right for you. You will be successful, and enjoy this process. It's a very, very special time.
Thank you for that, Danny. And one person who hasn't spoken much today, but I'm going to give him a chance to give a tip coming from Ghana, someone who's experienced studying abroad himself as well, Jojo, who's our regional director for Africa.
Absolutely. And thanks everyone for being here. Quite a number of you from across Kumasi and the rest of Ghana as well. What I'll say is that this process will take your time. And as a result, you should be committed to starting and getting all your documents together and actually seeing the process through. We do get quite a number of students who desire to study, who desire to possibly get funding and go to school in the US, but the commitment to the process is sometimes found to be inadequate. So I encourage all of you that from today, from this evening, be ready to give your best, ready to put in all your effort to make this dream a reality. There are a number of students that we met on the road last year who are on WhatsApp with me telling me about their visa appointments, about some have gotten their visas, they're actually going to go to school. And some of those schools are on this call today. This could be you next year. So I'm encouraging all of you, especially those of you in final year, that carry this bull by the horn and let's go all the way, see this process through, and hopefully some of you will make it and you'll have your dreams of studying in the US come true for you. Thanks for coming.
And just to close off, my last tip for you would be that, look at this, and I mentioned this earlier, look at this journey as an investment into your future. It's rare that, on the other side of that, when you're going to top institutions like the ones who are here, that there is no outcome for you. 10 years from now, and I'll give you a quick example, Jojo and I studied together. And 10 years later, we decided to build a business together. So that connections forged in that time can come good at any time in life. So enjoy this process, look at that as an investment, and we wish you the very best for times ahead. I know it's nearly 2 hours and still about 280 of you are here. So we thank you for your interest and appreciate the time you've taken to learn about the schools and the process today. All the very best, and we look forward to seeing you again on campus sometime in the future again as well. Thank you. And quick thank you to everybody else on the panel that have been here as well. We appreciate you spending this time and advising candidates on their potential study abroad opportunities as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paris. Thank you, Jojo. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. It's good to see quite a number of you after a while.
Always.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.